Welcome to Exploration Overland. My name is Zach, and today, guys, we are going to be talking about my brand new rooftop tent. So stay tuned, guys. Welcome back to the channel, everybody, and that is correct. Today, I want to introduce you guys to my brand new rooftop tent. Now, I explained that I had gotten a rooftop tent a few videos ago, and now it is actually here. It's actually been here for a couple weeks, but I haven't been able to do anything because it has been freezing cold here in Denver. So now that it is kind of warm, let's go ahead and talk about this tent behind me. Before we get going, the garage is open. There is some noise in the neighborhood, like always, so please bear with me. But this is my new tent. This is a TOPOAK Galaxy 1.0. Now, the reason I went with a TOPOAK rooftop tent was because, actually, there's two reasons. The main one is it is a budget-friendly tent. Most rooftop tents will cost you well over $2,000 to get something that is almost identical or similar to this. And any tent, for the most part, that is roughly around the price that I paid for this is typically a soft shell rooftop tent. This is a hard shell wedge style tent that is extremely budget friendly, guys. This tent on sale with the deal that TOPOAK has been having for the New Year's and Christmas and things like that cost me about $1,000. That's it. It was $1,000, and the money that came off of it covered the shipping, which was great. And when it arrived, guys, it was pristine, but we'll get into that in a second. The other reason I got a rooftop tent was because I have been wanting a rooftop tent for a long time. I said this in another video, but I have been wanting to get one for several years now, haven't been able to, and I have been using ground tents. I'm not done using my ground tents, but I am very excited to give this a shot because it is going to make my life when I get to camp much easier, faster, and I'll be able to relax and enjoy my surroundings instead of taking about my 20 to 30 minute setup process. It'll be cut literally in half just by having this. All right, now let's talk about when this thing arrived. Sorry, we have to get down to the tents level. When we get into some of the specifics about the tent, you're gonna understand why it's down at this level. But let's talk about when this arrived. When this arrived, it arrived via a freight company. This thing came in a huge crate that is bigger than what this is, and they brought it in, and it was very, very well packed. I will admit, all the foam that I'm kneeling on right now to help my knees, was all around this. This thing was wrapped very nicely. Nothing was damaged in the shipping. It came absolutely pristine, which was great. I was a little afraid that, you never know how shipping's gonna happen, and this thing came tightly packed, and it wasn't moving, and everything nothing was damaged whatsoever. There was no damage to the tent at all, which is awesome. And then unboxing this thing, it does take a little bit of effort, especially if you're by yourself. I had to break the crate apart just to get this thing to where I can open it, pull it out, things of that nature, but it wasn't too bad. Now, some of the specifics about this tent in its closed shape like it is here. This tent weighs 176 pounds. That's why it's down here. Because though I can lift 176 pounds, this is such an awkward shape, size, and the way it is, I cannot lift this up onto the Jeep. So it has actually been leaning up against the wall behind me the past couple of weeks, and I had to remove the roof rack off of the Jeep, set it on some jack stands, and I have now mounted the tent to the roof rack down here. And here in a couple of weeks, Rudy will be coming down here before we head out on a trip, and he's going to help me put this thing up on the Jeep because I need some help. Because I don't know a whole lot of people around me that I can get all at one time to help me lift this up and, maneuver it and get it to sit where I need to, and then kind of keep it in place while I bolt the roof rack back onto the Jeep. It's a whole little process. It took some figuring out, but I got it figured out. Now also, when this thing is closed, the dimensions are, and I am using my phone because I don't want to mess this up for you guys, 83 inches by 56 inches by 8 inches. That is the dimensions when this thing is closed at 176 pounds. That means if you have this tent, you need to have a roof rack that can support 176 pounds dynamically. Not just static weight, but dynamic weight, because this is going to be moving around closed. Now, once we open this up, these figures change a little bit, and the dimensions open up to being roughly the same. It's 83 by 56, but it's now by 53. That is open. Now the mattress, because I know there will be people that will want to know. The mattress is 79 by 52 by 2 inches. And the mattress that came in this thing, guys, is actually really comfortable. And we will get to it here in a second. Actually, you'll be able to see it probably right there in the background, because I have removed it, because I have my Lost Horizon sleeping pad already in here, because that is what I'm going to be using. But before I keep talking about these things, let's pop this thing open and see what it looks like. And as you can see, wedge. It's very simple. Now, some of the features about this tent, you have your gas strut. It's on the outside, which helps bring this thing up. And the tent does have, like a lot of different rooftop tents have nowadays, this lovely little elastic band that helps when you want to close it to help keep all this pushed in. This can easily be taken, pulled down, and that is the end of it. Now, as you guys will know about the TOPOAK rooftop tent, because there have been a lot of channels that have talked about it already, this is not the final design. This actually does pop out to provide you more space and more room. So I'm going to go ahead, pop this thing out, and then I'll show you how this does get popped out, and then we will start taking a look on the inside and talking about some of the aspects of this tent. The tent is up, and we have this whole extended part here, which just opens this up and gives you a ton of space. Now, a few things that did come with the tent that were all in the inside until I opened it up when I first got it, that you should know if you're about to get it, is first, these little racks here on the outside. It does come with supporting cargo rack, roof rack, whatever you want, that you can stick onto the top of this tent so you can secure things on there. I personally will not be using them. The one that is installed there, I have it installed for the sole purpose of being able to maneuver this thing around, because there is no real good spot to put your hands to help maneuver this thing around. So I had to install one of those so that I could have that leverage. Otherwise, that's probably going to come off because I have nothing that I'm going to install in here. But it is a great option for those that want to install your traction boards or even solar panels to the top of this. That could be used later on. If I ever do solar panels, that might be what I use these for. The other thing this did come with, it does come with a ladder, which we'll open up here in a little bit. It is a collapsible ladder that, fits nicely in that bag, and it'll allow you to adjust it to whatever height that you need for your rig, angle, things of that nature. You also do get, I should say, 2 shoe bags so that you can hang these off the side, place your dirty shoes in them so you're not bringing them in the tent. And like I said before, you do have your 2-inch mattress pad, the moisture wicking layer, or the layer in there that help with the condensation barrier. And there is a very, very thin flannelish kind of layer on the bottom that separates everything from the metal bottom of the tent itself. Now, before I bring you on in here and show you all the room, one thing I do want to note, and it's something that I would never have guessed or had thought of until I needed to, and that is the securing railing that comes on the tent. So this thing comes with 2 strips of railing that help you to secure it to your roof rack. The bolts that secure it are underneath everything in here on the metal floor, which you'll see here, it'll appear here. Check those nuts. They are locking nuts on washers. I say check them because mine were finger tight. I had to get in here to modify the railings for the tent a little bit so it actually fit on my roof rack, because they were longer than the roof rack. So I cut them so that they'd fit on the roof rack itself. But when I was getting in here to find the nuts to take those off, I found them and I was able to unscrew them all with just my fingers. I didn't need a tool, anything like that. Now they are a 13 millimeter bolt. If you do want to check them to tighten them up, they are a 13 millimeter. But check those, because everything else on here I have checked every screw, nut, bolt that comes on this tent. The only ones that were loose were the ones that help secure those bars so you can secure it to your roof rack. I could have only imagined what that would have been like going down the highway at highway speeds, and this gets ripped off after a while of it getting vibration and the wind beating on it, because those were just finger tight. They would have just spun right off because they were barely holding it on. So that was the only thing. The only criticism that I actually had about this tent when I found that out was that those were really loose. But like I said, I cut them, they fit, it all sits on this roof rack nicely. So come on into my new little home when I am off grid. Okay, welcome to the inside of my tent. Now I will give you guys a much better view here in just a second. But I did want to point out that the light that you are seeing me with is the light that actually comes with the tent. There is an LED light here in the tent that is ran off of a USB output. Now you do have to supply your own battery to make sure that the light gets powered on. So right now it's powered off of one of the power stations outside of the tent. But once you plug it in, this is the light that you have. Now I'm going to make this just a little bit easier for all of us so you guys can see the actual inside of this tent. All right, come on in. As you can see behind me, this is the extended part of the tent that is out there, and I had to bring in my little light ranger so that we had even more light in here. But it is extremely spacious. So as I told you guys before, this is my Lost Horizon sleeping mat that I got off of Amazon. It fits in here perfectly, and once I inflate it, I will have more cushion, sitting up a little bit higher, things of that nature. It'll just be a little bit better than that foam pad that comes in this tent. Actually, I was impressed by the foam pad itself. It was actually really comfortable, but I prefer my sleeping mat that I've been sleeping on for a few years now. The wire for this light, it's right here, is right here. It actually, there's a ton of it, so if you were at camp and you needed to run this down to your power station, your 12 volt setup, whatever it is, this cord will reach down and into your rig. I have figured that out already. This thing is about 4 feet long. I think it was about roughly where I found it at, measured it at. It's about 4 feet long worth of wire that runs down so you can turn on this light, and it's got this little switch panel right here where if I turn it on, it's got different settings for the light. Turn it off, turn it on. You can change the color of the light, things of that nature. But it's pretty simple in here. Now, we do have a little netting here. You do have a spot that you can slide stuff in, pockets, things of that nature, so that you can hang an iPad up there, be comfortable inside your tent. But one thing about this tent, which if you have seen other channels that have been doing reviews on this tent, you will know, if I can find the zippers, that this thing has a skylight so that you can roll this up, lay back and look at the stars. You can unroll, I'll show you on the outside where the rain fly is, you can unroll that so that this rain fly is opened up and you have just the netting, or you can leave the rain fly over it, which is basically like a see-through plastic cover for it. So if it's raining, you can still look out and see, you can still see the rain, things like that. It's actually pretty cool. I think it's one of the unique features of this tent is that it does have a sunroof type of aspect to it, because a lot of tents do not. One of the things about this tent that I also like is that if we were to zip up all the doors, right? We zip them all up here. Let me sneak past you. Grab all this door. And we zip it up here. And we got the sunroof closed. One of the things about this tent, grab my light so you guys can see me, is that it is pretty dark. So here in a second, let's find out how dark it actually is. That is actually pretty good on how dark this tent actually has gotten, because it is a sunny day, light is pouring through the garage, and this thing is pitch dark, which is awesome. Because one of the things about the ground tent that always bugged me was as soon as the sun comes up, that light is pouring into the tent itself. And this thing, guys, there has been no light in this tent whatsoever. It is pitch dark in here, which means when I am at camp, if there's a day that I am just dying to sleep in a little bit, I'm not going to worry about the sun, or the sunlight coming through the walls of this tent. Now we'll see how all this holds up over time, but brand new, guys, this thing is pitch dark with all the doors closed and everything cut off. So let's reopen all these things back up. Now that's pretty dark, which is awesome. Like I said, I love the fact that this thing basically becomes pitch dark in here and doesn't allow in a ton of light. One, it'll keep it a little bit cooler, and it'll also just allow me to sleep much better. Another thing about this tent, it is an option that is available for this tent that you can buy, is this. What is this? This is the insulation layer for the Galaxy 1.0. That is the only insulation layer they have for any of the rooftop tents that TOPOAK, gives. And it comes in this nice little bag, and here is the insulation layer itself. And what that does is it hooks all up in here, which I actually am going to hook it up in here because I have not done that yet. It hooks up in here, and then it just provides you that extra layer against the outside here of the tent to help keep it as warm as possible inside the tent itself. Combine that with a diesel heater, you're talking about, camping all year round in almost anywhere you want to go, because that's going to allow the heater to pump in heat into the tent, and having this insulation layer should help trap that heat in a lot better than just having this little layer itself where it'll seep right out. And then in the summertime, you can easily take out that layer and enjoy the summertime air. But let's go ahead, and I'm going to install this for you guys, show it to you. Then we'll start wrapping up this video, and I'll get down to the last little bits of it. Okay, I'm learning how to put this in as we do this together. This insulation layer came with 0 instructions on how to put together. So I had to take it out, flip it inside and out to find where the little hooks are. And inside, I'll show you guys here in a second, all along the base of the top of the tent, there are tiny little latches and hooks that this layer has. These tiny little hooks that hook onto to basically build the insulation layer inside the tent and get it all stuck together. Like I said, it's a learning process that we're doing together. All right, hook goes onto this little hook here. We got that one there. This side with the big huge bar has these big huge hooks that hook onto that bar, and it's like building a tent inside the tent. We have an insulation layer, which is actually kind of nice. It does droop a little bit in certain spots, but for what it's supposed to be, that's not bad at all. Now, a few things. You do lose your ability to have the netting, like that net storage thing. It's still on the outside of this, but there's nowhere to connect it inside this insulation layer. And you also lose your light up there. Now there is a hook that you can hook, you know, portable light like this. This isn't bad. I guarantee you it's gonna really help. And then also, see if I can get it to show without blinding you all. It does have this lovely extra bits at the end right here. This actually tucks up under your mattress so that as you're laying, this isn't doing that. And then you can just easily, if I can reach, boom, open it just like that. And then you can go in and out of your tent. Not too bad. That's not too shabby if I don't say so myself. I like that insulation layer. It is kind of a bummer that you do lose the ability to have that netting to store things or even having that light bar inside. But it's a decent trade-off for having some extra warmth in the colder months while you're out there wheeling. And to be fair, if you really, really wanted to, you could easily take off that insulation layer, fold it up, and put it up when you're ready to go to bed at night. It really, really is not that difficult whatsoever. It is a little bit of a learning. Like I said, you have to find where the side that the hooks are on, because like I said, 0 instructions came with that insulation layer. But it's all nice tacked up in there. My Lost Horizon pad, you know, deflated. This all closes up nicely. It is just going to be an excellent tent that I cannot wait to put to the test and see how it holds up, guys. I'm very curious because I've seen other YouTube channels. I've seen reviews on this. And honestly, guys, I've seen nothing but good news about this particular tent in general. So I will have an update video for you guys later on. But that's it, guys. That is my brand new rooftop tent. I absolutely am excited to put this thing through its paces, and its maiden voyage is going to be down to Southern California when Rudy and I go here in a couple weeks. And from here on out, it's going to be put through its paces, and I will keep you guys updated on how it's holding up, and we will do a review video later on in the summertime to see just how well it has withstood everything that I have put it through. But thank you all just so much for joining me today. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. You guys are what makes this channel happen, and it helps me out immensely. Also, a link in the description to the TOPOAK website if you would like to take a gander at it. Go ahead, take a look. They are not a sponsor of my channel, guys. This whole thing is not a sponsor of my channel. I bought this with my own money because I wanted to put an actual budget rooftop tent through its paces, and they're not paying me to do so, so I'll say whatever I want about this tent. And like I said, so far, guys, everything has been beautiful. It all has worked perfectly. The only things were those few bolts at the bottom. Check those nuts that hold the retaining bars that you strap it to your roof rack with. That's it. But there will be a link in the description that'll take you straight to this tent itself. They have other tents if you'd like to look at it. And this isn't the end-all be-all budget tent, rooftop tent, or even ground tent. Guys, choose what works best for you. For me, ground tent has been what has been working best for me for so long, and now I am ready to upgrade and see how this goes. But until our next video, guys, I hope you all take care.